Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. All right. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, everyone. Yeah, the title of this video. A little bit clickbait, maybe. I debated whether I should call it the state of Buddhism. But nothing so grand. What I did want to talk about, and I'm inspired by Sabina Hassenfelder on YouTube. She's a science educator, and she's a brilliant scientist, but she has this ability, this quality of being able to explain very complex science to the general public. If you know, no matter how much science education you've had or not had, she can explain rather elevated concepts in plain language, which is really something. I always have appreciated that with teachers throughout my life. Her subtitle for her channel name is Science Without the Gobbledygook. Perfect. And she was talking about warp drives today, this particular video I was watching. And Sabina has been on the edge of controversy, whatever. It depends on who's looking and listening and saying what, whether something is controversial or whether it's just different than your opinion, therefore controversial, right? What does that mean? And she has this ability, and she speaks a lot, and you'll be able to, if you know her, cool. If not, what she's able to do, apart from making complex subjects comprehensible, she will also talk about the influences and the well, I'll just leave it at influences that manipulate or end up manipulating without consciously knowing it, the institutions that are working in the scientific fields. And I just want to take that apart a little bit more because you'll see why this is so relevant and why I'm talking about it. You go to college and you study for many years to become a certain kind of a scientist, whether it's a particle physicist or a nuclear chemist or an astronomer, a cosmologist, on and on and on. There's so many classes and divisions of science. And, you know, you study some of it to be a pharmacist or to be a doctor or other things. But say you want to make your career this research type of career, and you want to get placement and get a good job at an observatory one day, or at a laboratory that makes breakthrough drugs, and so on and so forth. There are a plethora of commercial, earn good money or be supported for research places, but they are a limited resource. And so what happens between that resource and the schooling is a whole set of intermediaries where students research and the Holy Grail is getting published, making an aha discovery that you can then take to a peer-reviewed entity, and a combination of professors and working scientists and other researchers who've made their careers searching for people to work under them under several projects that they are getting money for. And you're vying for these positions. There's a lot of schools, a lot of students all over the world looking to get into these positions, and getting published with an important finding, or a finding that's at least treated as though it's a respectable, authoritative finding, and making it through the peer review process where everyone who's competing is trying to knock you down for, you didn't discover anything, I discovered this, and right, the competitive thing is going on. This is oftentimes the avenue of getting into those good jobs. Otherwise, you become a lab worker. You're working on tasks given to you by somebody else, and your little aha moments, and I say little because no matter how great they are, either if they're truly great, the guy who runs the department that you're working for is going to take credit for it, or this is politics, this is life, this is, the story. Whether you work on an assembly line or you're a brilliant chemist or whatever, the same politics are at work. It's frustrating. The way that capitalism really beats you over the head with that can be incredibly depressing, but that's the nature of socioeconomic behavior. And I've often talked about, and you've heard me talk about, the situation in 13th century Japan with Buddhism. And I've also extended that to the entire corpus of Shakyamuni's teachings. The reason why certain standout scholars like Nagarjuna or Tendai or Dengyo or Nichiren, why they're so impactful in the history of Buddhism. Because they're the great researchers who went, hold on. I call baloney on that. That's not correct. Just use your mind, right? This is incredibly important for scholarship, yes. But why is scholarship important? Well, because I would like to think that those of us who are wanting to practice something, whether it's mathematics or car mechanics or art or literature, writing, or whatever your endeavor of choice is, I would hope that you're trying to do it as best as possible. And part of doing it as best as possible is to have the best, most accurate knowledge, influence toward supporting your task. That just seems so obvious, right? But even without that, Shakyamuni himself repeated in many teachings, sutras, that he is not to be followed. That images of him are not to be followed. That even teachers aren't to be followed. That ultimately it is you yourself, through your study, beyond the person. Remember, follow the law, not the person. Through your own scholarship, you will reason, and Shakyamuni points to reason. You will be able to reason out in your experience of life what makes sense, what is true, and what is deviation, magical, or satisfying some other agenda, but not true for you. You need to be able to make that judgment. You can't surrender yourself and just go, tell me what to do. That's very authoritarian. And the world is really struggling with this today on every avenue, which is why I'm talking to you today about this. Nichiren's, if you go through the 333 odd number of videos that I've put up on Nichiren's Gosho, you will see how often he constantly hammers on, either in his discourse of doctrine, where he really digs into it, or even in his personal letters. There's always something about the correct practice, why this other is not the correct practice. Let me show you why it falls apart and why you should do it this way. Not because it's my Nichiren's opinion, but because study, look, it's obvious. And these others are manipulating and using Buddhism to forward another agenda, a politic that is not Shakyamuni's correct teaching. Use your reason. Right? And this is what Sabine Hossenfelder does. She says these guys in the scientific community, they'll put out papers with unreasonable arguments or interesting mathematics, and they're looking to do something beautiful with the math, and that's great. But at the end of the day, their paper represents magic or nothing worse. It's just an exercise, and to laud them for it is basically they've just circled the wagons. They haven't created anything new, or they're creating something new out of vapor. They're misusing terms, or they're trying to make proofs to get published so they can get, little gold stars so they can get a better job, but their research amounts to nothing. And the one I watched today was on warp drives. And she really dissects it without getting deep into the math or any of that. She generally categorizes them and shows how they're competing with one another for the prize of having achieved a warp drive, but they never did. It was a simulation in a computer. And, the requirements for this warp drive to work just simply haven't been proven to exist. So they're just mathematical playthings. They're like puzzles. And for what purpose? But to her credit, and Sabina always does this, she will also evaluate the endeavor in its entirety and say, well, there may be some good things to come out of doing this kind of research, but not at the expense of reason, of facts, right? So she's kind of my little modern Nichiren in the science world. I like that. I like scholars that are able to come up and go, let's be reasonable. Let's push the boundaries to find new things, but let's not find new things just so we can say we've pushed the boundary. That's wrong. And I see that a lot in Buddhism, where certain schools or scholars or sects or lay organizations will quickly develop their own agenda, their own politic. And then the teachings of Shakyamuni, which don't change, they are the teachings. But they can be, you can take all of those stories and all of those words and you can pick and choose and make your own story. You can edit them down and choose only the ones that you think support what you want to achieve, right? And Shakyamuni speaks against this throughout all of Buddhism, he says. Study it, all the scholarship, and the non-Buddhist. Because of the reasoning is what's important to Shakyamuni. You will come to this realization that I'm outlining in your own specific way, and the only way you can do that is by studying inclusively. But that doesn't mean studying this nutbag over here who says Buddhism is about floating in the air and imagining your brain to be a lotus flower. That person's taking everything out of context to support some magical theory that they have and calling it Buddhism. This is the history of everything. So Buddhism's no different. That's why these great scholars are so important. They bring it back to center. And if you've read any of Nichiren, look at his discourses, his Gosho on the errors in 8 schools, the schools of his day. He demonstrates with alacrity the agendas that these teachers have, with the samurai shogunate to back them up. Right? People operate out of fear, generally. I better do this. I want to be in their favor. I certainly don't want to lose favor or be in disfavor. Yikes. Right? So Nichiren, if you study Nichiren, you're going to confront this all the time. Nichiren was, Jacqueline Stone, and amongst other scholars, calls him the reformer, the Buddhist reformer of Japan. Well, he didn't reform Buddhism. He reformed the teaching of Buddhism by people who were doing it for their own purposes. So why the Lotus Sutra? It becomes obvious, especially through Nichiren, that there isn't a sect of Buddhism that doesn't include the Lotus Sutra now. They have to, but they go out of their way to disparage it because it's too clear. It takes power away from them. And that should be a big, big clue for you. Because if there's one central theme of Shakyamuni's, of Buddhism, true Buddhism, is that all of the power is within you. That's why it defeats authoritarianism. It defeats totalitarianism. It defeats dictator type behavior. It is the most democratic practice you could probably, or that you could possibly incorporate into your life. It throws the whole network of potential on you. No longer are you a victim of being told what to do, told how to think, told how to achieve, assigned a value. You are the creator of your value, your import, your direction, your mission, your purpose, your valuation in life, your value to others. You. No one can take it away. Nobody can give it to you. If they act like they are, they're imposters. And Buddhism strengthens your resolve to not be influenced by that. Even if it pressures you, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, you can push it away. You can make it evaporate. Which can be a hard realization sometimes, because sometimes it's really kind of comforting to say, well, I can't do what I want to do because I'm under this pressure and I can't get out from under it. There's no way I can get around it. Well, you've given up. In Buddhism, the answer's in your words. You have chosen to accept and draw this out of your environment and cave to it. In Buddhism, if you're truly practicing Buddhism, Myoho Renge Kyo, that can never stop you. It's just it's a Daimoku challenge. Raise your life condition to where not only does that influence, that pressure diminish, but it gets blown away. It disappears from your environs. Your environment is you. Buddhism is super, super straight, direct, unshakable on this. This is why it's such a revolutionary teaching. You don't have to kowtow to anything. You don't have to wait for instantiate your own benefit. It's your life. It's your Buddhahood. No one can affect that but you. That can seem overwhelming at times. Just takes a little Daimoku. It won't overwhelm you anymore. So thank you, Nichiren. Thank you, Tendai. Thank you, Dengyo, Miao Lo, Nagarjuna, Vasubandhu, all these scholars, all the way back to Shakyamuni. Oh my. Oh my. What clarity. What an amazing understanding, reason, a reasoning mind. What a phenomenal power that each and every one of our minds has to experience this life amazingly, securely, healthy. It fills me with so much gratitude, I can't express it. So, a short video. And I just felt I had to do this. I think sometimes we just need a reminder of how incredible this practice of awakening, enlightenment, this life, this opportunity to manifest fully all of our potential. This man, Siddhartha Gautama, who went through all kinds of research for years to the point of almost losing his life from starvation, from several things. And finally, determined as he was, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, that's unreasonable, I got to know. And he gets it. And then he shares it for his whole life. Over 50 years of teaching. So important was his teaching that it's been kept in scholarship for almost 3,000 years. And yeah, there have been times when people have gone to story time with it. Sects, lay organizations that are looking to create financial wealth and politic and power. That's the history of the world. It's no different in Buddhism. But there's always the scholars. And they are many. They're not just Tendai. They're all of the Tendai's students, people who helped him, the people he transferred his teachings to. Is it Chang'an? I'm not good with remembering all the names. There's so many that we need to respect and thank. And that's why they're in our Gongyo. They're in our silent meditation. We honor those great people, scholars, teachers, who honored the tradition of transmitting correctly Shakyamuni's teachings. the teachings of Buddha, our Buddha, your Buddha. Namo Myo Renge Kyo, right? All right, well, I don't know if that's a State of Buddhism address or just a rant. Whatever it is, I hope that you found something in it that was encouraging. That's a main theme for me, is to share whatever insights I can bring with you guys. Encourage your practice, because at the end of the day, if you don't feel like getting up in the morning and chanting and doing Gangyo, then you're struggling. You're struggling with your practice, you're struggling in your life, your practice and your life. If you achieve a balance there, your life will ameliorate every day, and your practice will be strong and solid. And that's what I wish for you. That's what I try to do for you. So I hope that that helps. Comment. Let me know what you think, what you're dealing with, and we'll address it. We'll talk about it. Or email me privately, tlksylvain@gmail.com. In the meantime, keep your practice up. Use the resources, the threefoldlotus.com website. It's all free info, lots of stuff to read, download PDFs, whatever. The bookstore, find some books there to help you get the correct liturgy so you can do Gangyo correctly without propaganda in it, right? And enjoy your practice. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Just like your life. Absolutely precious. Like, subscribe, share, blah, 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 the YouTube stuff. It helps, so please do it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.